Hello, everybody. On this stop of the One and Done Summer Road Trip Series, we say hey to the Barnyard at Williams Arena and say sky you ma to University of Minnesota Golden Gophers head coach Ben Johnson. Mike and Eric talked with Coach Johnson about his time at Minnesota, including the importance of one Dawson Garcia to the program, but also discussed what can be considered a new look roster in a new look conference. All that and more from Coach. Plus, Mike joins me in studio after the interview airs to discuss Golden Gopher hoops and take a little old peek at the expanding Big Ten. But for now, we hope you enjoy One and Done's conversation with University of Minnesota Golden Gophers head coach Ben Johnson.
Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
To introduce today's special guest on the One and Done show, he is the head coach of the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, Coach Ben Johnson. Thank you for giving us some time today, Coach. How are you?
I'm good, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
We are thrilled to have you here today, Coach. First and foremost, wanted to extend some congratulations, right? Your team is coming off of a very good year. You racked up 19 wins last season, and we're very much so in the thick of the at-large conversation as we got closer to NCAA tournament time. So wanted to know from your point of view, what were some of the key factors that contributed to such a big improvement in your program here in year number 3?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I thought we took the kind of the necessary step in year 3 that our program needed to take. And a lot of that was due to, just the growth in the age of our roster. We in year 2, kind of because we needed to, took a handful of freshmen and due to injury ended up playing those guys probably way more than we wanted to and was expected. But, with that came valuable minutes and valuable experience. And we were able to piggyback that for them their sophomore year. You combine Dawson Garcia, who for the first time in his career was able to be in the same program with the same head coach and the same system for back-to-back years. So you have a confident player that firmly understands his role. And then you add, a talented freshman like Cam Christie, who's going to have the opportunity to be drafted, I think next week. And you got yourself a pretty good roster of good youth and then also good experience that have kind of been through it. And the guys really meshed. We brought in some portal kids that were key contributors. And one is Mike Mitchell, who we've got on our team this year that really shot it well and brought some experience from Pepperdine. And so, I think it was just a combination of kind of all that. Every roster with the portal now the landscape is going to look different. And so you're just trying to survive year to year and put the best roster you can forward.
Absolutely, Coach. You guys did a great job of that last year. Now, I want to ask you, you were born in Minneapolis. You played most of your college ball there, been an assistant coach there. What does it mean to you to be the head coach at your alma mater?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a unique situation and a unique story. I don't think there's many of us that have kind of seen the program from almost every angle, from being recruited here in high school to playing here, to being an assistant coach here, and now to be the head coach. I think there's a lot of positives you can draw from that. I know everything about, this place and what makes it tick and the things that have made it successful and what we need to do here to continue to make our program successful. I think, as you guys know, every institution is different. You got to recruit a certain way that fits your university and fits your community and fits your team and your league. And so for me to know all that, both the good and the bad, I think has given me an advantage. And then obviously, you're indebted, when you've played here and you've put in that time and that equity and you've been an assistant coach here to help Coach Patino build it, and to put it on the map and to recruit here and now to do it as the head coach. It's a different type of, pressure is not the right word, but kind of winning expectation. And so we're excited to head into year 4.
Yeah, and it is clear that is a responsibility that you do not take lightly, right? So love to see the full circle nature of your story. Coach, you talked a little bit earlier about sort of the composition of your roster, right? Your team is going to look different in a lot of ways this year, but one thing that is going to be the same, like you mentioned earlier, the return of Dawson Garcia. He's heading into year 5, year 3 in your program. So, anyone that's watching him play, you immediately see the type of impact that he has on the court. But I wanted to know from you, what are the things that you look to, from him in terms of being a leader in this locker room, and just generally, how do you define leadership within your program overall?
I think that's a really good question. With Dawson and a lot of good players as they get older, it's now about, how consistent can you be? And can you bring that every single game, regardless of circumstance, right? Regardless of the opponent and whatever scout or defender they might have in you, or game plan or scheme, regardless of if you're healthy, if you're sick, if we've won, if we've lost, can you be that consistent force where, a head coach can pencil you in for whatever that production looks like? And it's not always about, going out and getting 30 and getting 40. It's about, can you defend your matchup, right? Consistently. Can you be the anchor of our defense, which he took a huge step in last year? Offensively, it's just about the production piece. Part of him that he wants to do a much better job is being a consistent rebounder. And, he's going to be able to score. He's always been able to score. I think he's the Big Ten leading returning scorer. So that's never been an issue, but it's about other things. Can you facilitate offense a little bit more this year? Can you defensive rebound and start our break? Are there different advantages offensively that we can roll out with the ball in your hands now? Can you take that step? But it just starts with just his role as the leader. And what he's always done a great job of is being consistent every single day with practice habits, with workout habits, with, school habits. He's going to graduate here this summer, which is awesome. And so for me, leadership is something that you just got to be consistent. And you guys got to know in that locker room that you're going to be the same dude, no matter the environment, every single day. And that whatever you talk about and you preach, you're going to back up with your play and with your effort and with your intention. And he's done that. And so because of that, we expect a lot of those leadership qualities to grow, vocally. I think that's also the next step is, you've got 1 year left. You got whatever it is, 8, 9, 10 months. You came back for a reason, let that locker room become yours and be that vocal piece. You've earned that right. And I know he's excited to do that.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to his game growing as well as Mitchell. But I want to talk about the rest of the roster here, Coach. You got a lot of transfers coming in. Guys like Brennan Rigsby, Lakai Patterson, Frank Mitchell, other guys coming in that have produced at a high level at their previous stops. So how do you go about navigating the transfer portal, and how do you envision integrating these players into your system this year?
Yeah, navigating the portal, there's so many angles to that, with NIL now being a big factor that plays a significant role. But we just try to fit pieces into our puzzle that makes sense for us, that kind of play the same style that we're looking to play, that come from winning programs. I think that was big, guys. The more guys you can get that have experienced winning and knows what that looks like, the better. That's why I love Brennan, being able to come from Oregon, made the NCAA tournament. You played Power 5. You played under a coach who does a really good job. You played with really good players, so you competed in practice. All that little stuff matters. You look at Lakai Patterson. I followed him from high school to Missouri State to Charlotte. He had his best year as a college player last year. Can you build on that? You've got really good momentum now. You played on a team that surprised a ton of people in that league, and you were a big part of that. You're physically ready to take the jump. All that stuff. Frank's a little bit different where, I think he was the nation's 4th leading rebounder. He's a guy that could be a double-double guy, but he wanted the challenge. He wanted the challenge of playing on a bigger stage. He wanted the challenge of playing with a good player like a Dawson Garcia. He wants to see where his game can grow. So, we try to just target guys that fit us, that fit what we're about, that are winners, they're about the right stuff, that want to be here. I think that's important. and want to develop and want to be coached and pushed and get better.
We are sitting down today with head coach Ben Johnson of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Coach, want to double click on the transfer portal dialogue here. You yourself were a transfer back in your playing days. So I've got a two-part question. One, as you were transferring, as you were sitting out a year to justify that transfer, to earn that time to play, did you ever envision a world where player mobility would be as wide open as it is? And then two, are you able to draw on your experience as a transfer when you're talking to guys that are considering coming to the program, maybe guys that are considering transferring out? How do you use that experience to color that conversation?
Yeah, no, that's it's so true. I think the more times you can, I guess, be in somebody's position, the better, where you can give constructive feedback either way. I think, families and players really appreciate that and respect it. Back then, situations were different. You're exactly right. You had to, if you made a choice to transfer, you had to really mean it, because you had to sit out that year, regardless of what the situation was, and not compete. And so I think what it's done more than anything is it's made me less sensitive to this new rule, and I don't get butthurt. I don't take it personal. I understand every situation is different. Every kid's different. Every decision is different. It doesn't mean they're a bad person or a bad people. It's just, it is the landscape. And I think now more than ever, as a head coach, you got to be willing to adapt. Nobody wants constant turnover. Nobody wants players that have been in their program or been with them to leave. But the reality is, if you look at the numbers alone, it's going to happen. And so you can't get caught up sometimes in the reasons why. Sometimes sometimes you might never know. You got to get caught up and worried about the guys that are on your roster and who you need to bring in to add to those guys to make it a winning program. And so that probably my take from it is just, because I've been through it, and you learn not to take things personal, and you worry about to worry about and concern and throw yourself in the guys that are there with you versus the guys that maybe have left for whatever reason.
Totally agree, Coach. You have to keep moving forward. I want to talk about another piece of the pie here with all the changes in college athletics. Conference realignment. The Big Ten added 4 new members from a few time zones away on the West Coast. What are some of the challenges and opportunities you foresee with the expanded geographic footprint of this new look Big Ten?
I think it's great for our league, to be able to have those 4 programs, which I view as national brands, does nothing but empower our league and our conference, and I think it's the best conference in the country. It's going to up the ante in a lot of areas. It's going to heighten competition, which is what you want. I think it makes the landscape, exciting. I'm looking forward to being able to go out to LA this year and play at UCLA and play at USC, and next year be looking forward to going out to Washington and playing on the road at different venues that you see on TV and are pretty historic. I think from that standpoint, it's pretty cool. But I think at the end of the day, you got to keep the main thing, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and could be just the beginning. But it's about recruiting the best players you can, and maybe this allows you to branch off and do more West Coast because there's familiarity with it. Maybe allows you to dip in different areas with the transfer portal. You're seeing different kids. That'll be that we'll see where that goes. But from just a standpoint of just creating something new for the league, I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be a boost to energy for both, our sport as well as football, and really put the microscope on our league, which is what we want. We want to be a power league that can set records for multiple teams, and the number of teams that we get in the NCAA tournament that can not only qualify, but that can make a run and play in a Final Four and contend for a national championship.
Coach, last question before we get you out of here. I want you to take me to game day. All right. Are there any traditions, rituals, superstitions that are part of your pregame process? And if so, Do those originate from your playing days, or are those things that developed during your time as a coach?
It probably stems. I played Little League baseball like a lot of us did growing up,
Okay.
and in baseball, there's like everybody's superstitious.
Absolutely.
Like
No shortage of them.
So I think from a young age, just that it's a superstition to be superstitious, probably developed, and so it can get bad. It depends. Like if we're winning, I get paranoid about everything, that the routine is the exact same from like the time you get up to what you do in the morning before shoot around to the route you take to get to shoot around to the time you arrive at shoot around to like what you wore. It's gotten easier now because you can always throw on the same quarter zip and pants. But like even just with my play card, like when I draw that up, if we've won, like the ink's got to look the same. It's got to be formatted the same as I drew it up the last game. And you got to circle the same stuff and highlight the same plays and write certain stuff in the same areas. And again, it's all stupid, and I know that.
It's fun,
but
man.
it's kind of like your safety blanket, especially as you win. It's like when you're a young coach trying to grow and develop, you want to give yourself every mental advantage that you think you might have. Again, I'm smart enough to know it probably doesn't have any impact, but if I can fool myself into thinking that I'm doing my part to make sure we keep winning, I'm gonna do it. So to answer your question, it depends. The minute we lose, you kind of start it over and you do something different to get back on the winning path.
Love it, Coach. Love it. There it is. That is Coach Ben Johnson of the University of Minnesota. Coach, thank you so much for spending some time with us here at One and Done. We wish you much success in the upcoming season. We look forward to catching up with you down the line.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for you guys having me on.
That was University of Minnesota Golden Gophers head coach Ben Johnson. Thanks to Coach for his time and everyone at the University of Minnesota for making that happen. I am Jay Heinrich, the conductor of this One and Done train. And that man on your screen right next to me is El Capitan. That's the captain of the ship, Mike Holland. I do the train, he does the ship. Good stuff there. At MC Holland on 34. Mike, great stuff there from Coach. Like, first of all, of course, he hit on the experience, how important it is. And basically every coach we ever talked to brings that up, his unique situation in terms of actually transferring as a player before the instant transfer was a thing and having to sit that out and be candid about that and his thoughts on his team and the conference in general. Great stuff there from Coach. Wanted to ask you, what were your takeaways from your conversation with Coach Johnson? You and Eric did a real nice job there, by the way. Good stuff. What were your thoughts from that?
Yeah, first one that really sticks out is I love that he talked about, he really knows the institution at all different levels. Like, it's really unique to be from that area, to play there, to be an assistant there for a long time, and now be the head man. So just the fact that he understands what it takes, year 3 with big improvement. We'll talk about the program here in just a second, but that really stood out to me. And then his attitude about the portal, that was pretty awesome, just getting his take on it. He was a transfer himself. So you can't really get caught up in the why guys leave. You really just have to move forward and really develop the guys that are on your roster and the players that want to be there. So that kind of gives him a unique perspective in the portal. So when he's recruiting guys, he can, obviously draw on his experience. Obviously it's slightly different where, he had to sit out and, nowadays you can pretty much go anywhere you want at any time, it feels like. But at least him having tomorrow. Yeah, at least him having that experience, I thought was pretty awesome. And the fact that he's excited about the leadership that some of these guys that are coming back, Mike Mitchell, Dawson Garcia. So man, I was very impressed and appreciative of his time. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do in year 4.
He couldn't wait to talk about Dawson Garcia. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I love talking to a coach or seeing a coach talk about one of his players like that.
Yeah.
Because you just had to say, hey, Coach, Dawson Garcia, and he would have gone the same amount of time, if not longer, just let him talk about Garcia. So, he does like his team, and I think he should. Let's just dive in a little bit here to the program. Significant jump last year for Coach Johnson in his third season at the helm. They won 9 league games after only combining for 6 wins in the first 2 years of his stay there. Now, when you talk about elite is like one of those – listen, 41st in effective field goal percentage, okay? That tells you the story of probably we could say like a borderline elite offense, I guess, when you consider that that metric. But that's not even the thing that is my biggest takeaway is looking back last year at some of this team. It was the best defense that they've played in his 3-year tenure there as well. Yeah. So when you get a jump in wins, your defense is hot, your offense is improving, and you're creeping up now. You're creeping up a little bit in this conference. If you can get to 10, 11 wins, it feels like knock, 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 Mike. They're knocking on the door. But it does start with Dawson Garcia on and off the court. The leadership and production, I think we can agree, will be key to their success, him being on the floor. So, Mike, looking at this roster, what do you like? There may be some question marks along the way as well that we might want to see get answered early in the year.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting Dawson Garcia back, so that is a big piece of the puzzle, right? And I feel like you're probably going to get what you got from him last year, around 18 points per game, 7 rebounds. You can pretty much pencil that in. I think the thing that Coach Johnson wants to see, obviously, that leadership take effect on that locker room, but then also can he be a playmaker? He kind of talked about that. Can he facilitate, maybe raise that assist average by a dime or two? Can he take his defense to the next level? So I think that's what's going to establish like a floor or a baseline for this team. I love what Mike Mitchell brings back for them. He's had a year now in the Big Ten, transferred in from Pepperdine, a year in the system. We always see kind of those guys, second years in their systems, make a little bit of a jump, if not a big jump. He shot it well, 40% from 3. Really just needs to cut down on the turnovers. But, you have that 1-2 punch returning. Parker Fox also returning. So you got some guys in the program, that they're on that 19-win team. So that's a good baseline. A lot of transfers coming in, a lot of hype around Lakai Patterson from Charlotte. I love his game for the 49ers in Charlotte. He led them in usage rate, and he was also the best at taking care of the ball. You typically do not see someone with the ball in their hands that much not turn the ball over at a high clip. So you have to love that. If that could translate over, that is going to be a big boost for them. So just a great pickup there. One of the more underrated transfers, at least from my perspective, in the country. You got the guys on the rest of the roster here that are really intriguing. Brendan Rigsby, he talked about, coming in from Oregon, Fima Udikale from New Mexico State via Seton Hall. These guys have high major experience. You got a couple of young incoming freshmen. Those guys are always wild cards. We'll see what they can give them. The guy I'm probably paying the most attention to on this roster is Frank Mitchell, the big man coming in from Canisius. He averaged a double-double, had a breakout here last year. I would expect him to battle Parker Fox for that starting 5 spot next to Dawson Garcia in the front court. So either way, both those guys are looking at bigger roles this upcoming season, and they're going to be key because there's going to be a lot of attention going to be given to Garcia. So, man, I'm liking this roster, and it starts at the top, Garcia for sure.
Yeah, deservedly so. We'll get a lot of that attention. And, of course, right there on that nice graphic there, the projected starters are flagged there with the old little asterisk right there for your viewing pleasure. And, look at that picture of Coach. He sure was in a much better mood talking to you guys than he was in that picture right there. But, yeah, good stuff there. We're going to see if that experience can carry Minnesota over the hump here in the Big Ten. We're going to talk about the Big Ten, a quick outlook. But before we do that, if this is your first time hanging out with us, welcome. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for checking out One and Done over here on the Green Screens Media YouTube channel. Make sure you do us a favor. Do your part in the Green Screens Media universe. Hit those like and subscribe buttons. Tell all the hoop heads in your life about us. More to come all summer long, more interviews, more portal talk. We will not stop all year long. So stick around with us, hit all those buttons, hop in the live chat as well. And shout out to our guy, Eric the Blue, at Fantasy Nav in those Twitter streets. Eric Romoff pushing some buttons tonight for us behind the scenes. Shout out to him, and at The Real Napier as well, working really hard with Mike on a big old project One and Done is putting out. So make sure you follow us all on Twitter at One and Done CBB, on X at One and Done CBB, on the old TikTok way over there. If you're on the TikTok, like I know Mike is over there, join Mike on TikTok and at One and Done CBB as well. Good. Look at the graph. Look at going across the screen. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Always on top of it. But let's get to the Big Ten here, Mike. A quick outlook, an overview, if you will. I said in the cold open, I talked about the ever-growing, the ever-expanding Big Ten. Yep. And it sounds silly to say that there are 18 teams in the Big Ten. Remember when it was ridiculous that there were 12 in the Big Ten?
Not that long ago.
No. 18 now, the upcoming year. So last year, the Big Ten received 6 bids to the NCAA tournament out of 14 teams. I was a chronic complainer of the number of bids they got the year before to all get bounced out except for Michigan State in that year. But 6 last year felt right in my mind. But now that the Pac-12 is dissolved and they've absorbed a bunch of these teams, like it almost feels like the number has to go up and the number of expected entrants will go up. 8 or 9 is probably where they will land on a year in and year out basis, right? You feel like that's probably that's a comfortable number, right?
Yeah, I would have to say probably a baseline of, no less than 7 with the the 4 West Coast teams coming in. That what we've seen there from a history standpoint, you would think 7, 8, 9, right around there.
Yeah, right around 9, probably 8 or 9 it will be a fair number for them. And if any of these teams overperform, you could see 10. I could see it happening for sure. And like I was saying earlier, Minnesota, you got to feel like they're going to be in the hunt again, right? 9 league wins last year. So 10 conference wins with a really good non-conference run, maybe 11 conference wins. Typically is going to get you in this conference. Mike, that's a bounce or two from this team getting into the tournament last year. They were that close. A couple of bounces go their way, and they are dancing last year. So thoughts on the possibilities for Minnesota, but not just Minnesota, maybe on the Big Ten as a whole.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten is really interesting. Not only do you have the 4 West Coast teams coming in, but to me, it's clearly wide open. Zach Edey's gone. Terrence Shannon, Coleman Hawkins, Marcus Damas, that team from Illinois, gone. Michigan State's a little more of an unknown than last year. So, now you have some teams potentially on the come up like Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers. Even those teams, though, obviously we're sitting here in mid-June, potential holes and some question marks. I don't know that you would say that there's an elite team right now in the Big Ten. I would say that there are a lot of really good teams in the Big Ten, though. So for Minnesota, it's very reasonable to have expectations of them making the tournament. For me, it depends on how good they can be defensively. Can they crack into the top 100 in adjusted defensive efficiency? That I think will be enough to get that 10th or 11th conference win. Can they defend the 3-point line a little bit better? Coach Johnson obviously going to be preaching defense, and then gonna have some offensive firepower that we talked about a little bit earlier, especially when you have Dawson Garcia back. For me, it's really a question if those things are improved, how this team gels. Obviously, you bring in some new players. You're gonna have to see how they fit. May take a little bit of time, but as with every team, picking up a non-con key win or two always helps. So when you get to that number, that 10 win, Big Ten season, do you have something in the non-con that can put you over the top? So I'll be looking for that. But a lot of upside on a lot of these Big Ten teams. I feel like this is kind of like 2 years ago where it's like very wide open. There's not the Purdue, Michigan State that were showing up in the top 5 of all the preseason rankings last year. It's just a lot of quality teams that are gonna battle it out, and Minnesota's gonna be right in the thick of it.
Does Dawson Garcia have to be all first team Big Ten for Minnesota to make the tournament?
Yes, I think he's going to have to obviously be that key factor for them. I think he has to be a first team all league performer for them to get in. But really, it's how do the role players fit in? What's he able to get maybe out of some of the younger guys that those wild card freshmen that are out there. Brennan Rigsby, I think, is going to be huge for them coming in from Oregon. Watching this kid last year, like he can put the ball in the basket for sure. So Lakai Patterson, another player from Charlotte that I think is going to be able to get a lot of buckets for them. So offense, don't think that's going to be an issue, especially when you have a key piece that's going to draw a lot of double teams in Dawson Garcia. But defensively, what are we going to get here? That's going to be the key. If they break into the top 100, they finish top 75 in adjusted defensive efficiency, I think you're going to see this team right there to get into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's not hard to believe at all, and it's well within the range of possibilities for them. I think, yeah, I agree with you in terms of you placing that importance on Dawson Garcia. He has to have that type of a season for them to even be in the conversation, and then they've got to have a couple of more bounces go their way. A couple of guys step up. Coach talked about that experience. He talked about some of those younger players having to play freshmen early, having to play them more than they expected. Is that going to start translating now on the floor, on the court, in conference play, especially as they get another year under their belts? We shall see. But what I do know is that we appreciate the University of Minnesota head basketball coach, Ben Johnson, for spending some time with us today on One and Done. We appreciate you for hanging out with us, watching One and Done. Hit those like and subscribe buttons and those notification bells so you don't miss anything that we are putting out. We are coming out a couple of times a week at least with content all off season long. As breaking news hits, we're coming out to you guys. We are a show of the people, and we would love to hear from you. So if you're watching after this post, make sure you hop in the comment section. Let us know you were hanging out with us. Let us know what you think about the Golden Gophers, about Big Ten basketball. Let us know anything that you want us to ask any of the upcoming coaches that we will interview. Drop it all in the comment section. Hit those follow buttons on X for everybody. At Dr. William Cannon, conductor of this whole thing. Jay Heinrich. That is El Capitan, the captain of the Green Screens Media ship. Mike Holland at MC Holland 34. At Fantasy Nav in those Twitter streets is our guy Eric the Blue pushing buttons tonight. At The Real Napier in this host chair every now and then and doing big stuff behind the scenes as well. At One and Done CBB on Twitter and TikTok. Don't ever go too far away from One and Done. Tell somebody that you love them. Take care of yourself. Say hey one time. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drrodo.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.